So, dear colleagues, good morning to everybody. It is our great pleasure to welcome you to the Researchers Excellence Network organized scientific seminar discussion on the very important issue, I guess, for all regions in the world, despite of the continent, despite of the economic level, or even despite of the social capital, which is located in the particular country. So, dear colleagues, my name is Vita Juknevičienė. I represent Vilnius University, Šiauliai Academy, and today I will be your events moderator. It is my big honor and pleasure to open this discussion, which is called with this very important question: how innovations are important for regional development. And I would really would like to thank for professors, for our colleagues who accepted to be key speakers, main presenters for this event. I would like to warmly welcome our professors Natanya Meyer and Professor Natanya Meyer from University of Johannesburg, South Africa. Welcome, professors. It is my great pleasure to welcome Associated Professor Daniela Georgieva and her colleague Professor Teodora Georgieva from International Business School, Botevgrad, Bulgaria. Welcome, professors. And I would like to welcome our one of speakers, Tomas Martinaitis, who is Deputy Mayor of Akmenė District Municipality, as well as very active participant of Šiauliai Academy community, our alumni of our public governance study program. So Thomas, welcome, and it is nice to have the practitioner, the deputy mayor among our key speakers. So dear colleagues, today the schedule is changed just a little bit as our vice mayor Thomas is having another meetings with citizens in his municipality. This is why he asked to give us his speech in the first line. So Thomas, if you would be so kind to share your slides, and we will give the floor for you. Don't forget, dear colleagues, that you may give your questions in your chat line, or you may give some questions orally by raising your hand. While others are speaking, I will ask you to keep your microphones muted to have all attention on one speaker. So, dear Thomas, thank you very much for attending this event, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I must say that I'm getting more and more nervous seeing how many serious academics, professors joining this event. And sorry if I made some mistakes. This is my first kind of international academic presentation, and I would like to share with you my academic research that I made during my master thesis preparation. About municipalities, about smart social system, and the research that I also continuing to making, because I would like to start my doctoral thesis from next autumn. So there are some articles that I have already written and would like to share my ideas with you today. So the theme that I will start to present is the potential of Lithuanian municipalities in creating a smart social system. And the importance of this topic is the one that I think that most of us are feeling, that today the world is changing really fast and a lot, and we have to work according to it. And because of this pressure on national and local authorities to find appropriate ways to managing and organizing activities of governments, the public sector has to address socioeconomic, those new type of problems quickly and efficiently. And in this kind of situation, this importance of smart decision making, of smart social system in local government came in front, and then therefore this concept of smartness appears. And what exactly, how I define this smartness, I use the definition that academics Yusevičian and Yusevičius gave. And according to them, the smartness is the ability to quickly and intelligently adapt to conditions of changing environment by making adequate decisions, and using them to achieve ultimate goal. And those academics, Yusevičian and Yusevičius, especially, had defined the 8 basic dimensions of smart social systems, how the smart social system could be defined. And those 8 dimensions are intelligent, agile, network, sustainable, knowledge-driven, innovative, digital, and learning. So this smart social system that we would like to talk about must be included in their social system work, those 8 definitions. And I took this model of Yusevičius and tried to adapt it to the local government system. And in this case, the model of Sinkėnė and Grumadaitė helped me because they created this smart region model. So in my case, a smart region could be also understood as a smart local government. And then what it is to be the smart local government, what is a smart region, it is defined with a coherence of 3 different sectors: smart society, smart economy, and smart public governments. And when all those 3 spheres works well together, then the quality of life in the region or either in local government appears, in municipalities appears. And this model that Sinkėnė and Grumadaitė created has a lot to do with the Lithuanian progress strategy, Lithuania 2030, where all those 3 areas, society, public governments, and smart economy, also works together. So this idea of smart region goes well together with Lithuanians' long-term strategies. And now I would like to present you more directly those 3 areas and what the dimensions in local government could be analyzed. So first of all, I would like to start with smart economy and this pyramid model that created also Yusevičius together with academic Bruneckienė. And they described what important dimensions are in this economy field, in economic area. And what we are talking about is the few levels of smart economy, and the basic level, they are the levels of smartest dimensions. They are intelligent economy, knowledge-based innovation economy, learning economy, agile, green and social responsible economy, network economy, and digital economy. A bit higher up is the level of powers of economic development. There is those dimensions of openness and entrepreneurship and responsibility. And then the top level is the level of the aim of the economic in general, but this is the economic development and competitiveness. And this is the basic pyramid model for the smart economy. And in my research, I try to adapt it to the local municipalities level. Later on, I will present my results. The second area is the model of smart public governments. This model was presented by Stanislovaitė, Gaulė, and Šibžinienė. And they talked about all those 8 dimensions that Yusevičius had already presented, and create a model where 4 dimensions, the dimensions were summarized from those dimensions that Yusevičius has presented, and they extract four different approaches. There's the smart public governments should acquire the strategic dynamism, cross-sectoral cooperation, inter-sectoral cooperation, and also empower the citizenship. And the third area that's important for me, according to the smart region model, is the smart community characteristics. However, in my master thesis research, I haven't found the exact model that I could use in order to analyze local government and municipalities level. But in this case, I came back to the Yusevičius dimensions, those 8 dimensions that I have presented you early on. and try to look at qualitative characteristics and quantitative characteristics, and look how the smart community could be defined and what is important in this area. So there's the slides of those qualitative and quantitative characteristics, also those dimensions. Again, this is intelligent, knowledge-driven, learning, networking, innovations, digital, sustainable, agile, and social responsible communities as a smart community, how it should be. Before the results of experts interview that I have made in order to see on which level of those smartness we are now in our local governments in Lithuania, I would like to present you a few practical examples of smart local government in Lithuania case mostly, and how those dimensions could be understood nowadays, and how the expression of them could be seen and already a little bit evaluated, and maybe some good examples. I think this is also important in our today seminar, as we like to discuss more about innovations of public governance or in a regional sphere. So I will present you six different cases, six different dimensions that could be found. And first of all is the strategic dynamism of public government. And to show off you how this could be acquired is the information that was shared from our Ministry of Transport. The minister himself has presented the data of in a beginning of March, at the end of February, how much money has municipalities acquired from this COVID plan that was gave to the municipalities in order to increase the road maintenance and development program. And this is the 60 municipalities in Lithuania, how those extra money they have received from the national government. And the information, the data that the minister has shared to the society was also compared with the money that was given to the municipalities in the last 3 years without those COVID monies. And I have made this analysis, and in the left part of this table, you could see the 15 municipalities which has the most money from the last 3 years for those road maintenance and development program per citizen. And on the right side of the table, you could see how much money it was given from this COVID money just last year from the June of 2020 till the end of the year. And in this case, the red marked municipalities are those who has achieved the biggest national government support, who managed to take those COVID money and invest it in their municipalities. And this shows the strategic dynamism power of municipalities, and which municipalities in this crisis-struck situation managed to achieve the most. And in this case, those red marked municipalities, out of the 15 first, there are 8 municipalities who climbed a lot in compared to those money that has invested during the last 3 years. So this is this one example of strategic dynamism and this agility of municipalities adopting the crisis-driven situations. The other example that I wanted to give you is the dimension of networking and the functional zones that was presented to the municipalities, to the public, to the national-wide. This was idea of our Ministry of Interior Affairs and their plans of strategic planning in the next few years in Lithuania in order to achieve regional development aims. And they presented this idea of functional zones that would like to be achieved in Lithuania, that in order to how to spend the regional development money from the EU in the next perspective. And this idea was to help to connectivity in our regions, to create those functional zones according to which municipalities, the people who live in municipalities, could achieve their workplaces faster, to achieve their basic services faster, and achieve the most important national services faster. So this was the money to invest in a network, in facilities. And one of the examples also was the initiative of Tauragė region, one of 10 Lithuanian regions, who also created the common public transport system, trying to create a common public transport system. This was a pilot project that was established last year, and in order to create a common public transport ticket in this Tauragė region, which combines together 4 municipalities in this region. This was Tauragė, Pagėgiai, Šiauliai, and Jurbarkas. And this was the pilot project that wanted to help increase the network of those municipalities and the region itself, and also it could be taken as an example as a good dimension of this network example of this network dimension. The third example I would like to give, sorry for this not highest quality of it, but this was the work of Gedvilaitė, who was academic, who defended her doctoral thesis 2019, and she tried to look at the sustainability dimension in Lithuania on a regional level, because in Lithuanian language the sustainability could be understood a bit more tricky, not like us and sustainability only in English language, but she's made an analysis on the regional level how the municipality, that the level of sustainability could be measured, and she in her doctoral thesis defends this idea. So this is the table where you could see the level of Lithuanian municipalities and how this sustainability may be measured and also evaluated and compared. But in her case, the trickiest thing is that the data is more on a regional level, and to go lower to the municipality level is a bit more difficult, because the Department of Statistics in Lithuania don't provide those data as it. Another one example of the smart dimension is empowered citizenship, one of the 4th in public government, and this is the idea of active participation of the citizens in the field of citizen budget. I guess you're already familiar with this term, and this is the summary of Transparency International made a summary of Lithuania as how much the municipalities are involved in the citizen budget idea, how many of those projects are already going on in Lithuania, and who are ready to do it. So in a map of Lithuania, you can see how much different municipalities are achieving this topic, and how many of them are already implementing those citizen budget initiatives. And the another one example I'd like to share is the knowledge-driven and learning community, and this smart community field example is a company Intersurgical success story. This company is creating medical equipment, and they established a new factory in a region, in a Pabrade region, who is very far away from the biggest cities of Lithuania, but they understood the importance of working together with a learning institution, with professional learning centers, and by working together with them, they managed to invite more people to work in their factory. And this very nice example of smart community, of smart economy, as the importance of knowledge-driven and learning community that achieve this successful results. So there are a few dimensions that I would like to share with you about those practical examples of Lithuania. But at the end of my presentation, I also want to share the information about my experts interview that I made during my master thesis. So as I presented you before, I created this model, talked about the importance of every area, about all those dimensions that could define those area, and created those criteria, quantitative and qualitative criteria that could be measured. And afterwards, I created questionnaire according to which should be help to evaluate the current level of Lithuanian municipalities. And I made expert interview in order to evaluate how the experts present how understand how they evaluate this current situation. And I will present you the results. So I make it colorful, in which case the green one means that they evaluate the dimension good, and the yellow is the average, and there's no red, but the orange means that this dimension was evaluated weaker than an average. So about this smart economy area, there are two dimensions that are evaluated by the experts lower than average. Is the entrepreneurship and intelligence. And there were 3 out of 11 who were evaluated good. There's a general welfare, learning, and agility, agile of this smart economy field. And they were evaluated higher than other dimensions in the smart economy area. About smart public government, most of the dimensions were evaluated quite equally. However, this intersectoral cooperation capabilities of public government was evaluated a bit lower. And about the case of smart community, therefore, 4 dimensions evaluated stronger than average, however, not on a good level. There was a digital, knowledge-driven, learning, and sustainable. And 2 were evaluated a bit lower. There was intelligent and socially responsible community. So in general, whole 3 areas is the general table, and we can see that the best evaluated was the dimensions of smart economy. This already mentioned, welfare, learning, and agile dimensions. And this is the way to present it in a little bit different way. And yeah, just to make some more conclusions, what more could be done, I try to make some recommendations. Also, so I understand that more could be investment in the leaders, in the skills of leaders, in order to be for them ready more to in their competencies to work in this smart social system, a smart local government. Also, more to be done in order to improve the level of digitalization and in business structures and in society in general. Also, to strengthen the expression of knowledge and innovation dimension at local level, to take sustainability into account when planning any investments in the region. Also, to promote initiatives of people to protect the environment, and also to keep in mind the cooperation and dissemination of good examples and initiatives. Those recommendations were made out of the interview of the experts, also to looking what they have said and evaluate those best and worst dimensions, how they were evaluated. So yeah, basically this is it of my presentation. Yeah, this is my first time, so yeah, if something wasn't clear or you have any questions, please just give me your feedback.
Thank you very much, Thomas. As I mentioned, Thomas is a young researcher, deputy mayor, so practitioner as well as a researcher. So thank you very much for giving us main insights from your research. As I mentioned, you may give one, let's say, hot question if somebody has, because Thomas is rushing to another meeting. So as I see, I don't see.
I was really in a hurry, but this is my type of speaking, so sorry.
Everything is perfect, Thomas. Just waiting for some questions. If there are some, you may raise your hand and give an opportunity for Thomas to answer to your question. So, Thomas, if you let me, just
yes.
a short question. As a practitioner, as a young researcher, according to results of your research, is it possible really to implement the concept of smart municipality as a smart social system? Or we have to do a lot till we will achieve it as a theoretical model?
I don't know, is it really the utopia to achieve this? But I think the important thing is just to manage to evaluate the current level that we are now and where we want to go. In my thesis, I try to look to this new government program in order to understand what they are planning to achieve in the next few years, in the next term, in the next 4 years, and try to look at from the local government perspective and what could be done in order to improve this smartness of municipalities as a smart social system. I understood that everything would not be done, but just to understand where we are now, where we want to go, and what could be done, I think it's important for me as a practitioner and also for the academic communities to analyze the local government, the municipalities, and then to make it something better. So the current challenge that they are facing, that's quite many of them, and I think it's important to improve in this field.
Thank you so much, Thomas. We wish you good luck in your practical experience, as it is really important for us to have young leaders in the regions to implement the policy, to form the policy seeking for smartness in regions. So thank you very much for your presentation. We hope that you will come back to our discussion.
I generally will.
So see you later. And now I would like to give the floor for our presenters from the University of Johannesburg, Professor Daniel Meyer and Associated Professor Natanya Meyer. Will give you some ideas about regional economic development, and it is very important for us because, as I know, professors are working in the field of regional development measurement. So I wish all participants to have a nice listening of your presentation. And professors, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thanks for everybody that logged into this Teams meeting for RENET. We are all members of the research group, so it's good to be here today. Our topic for today is innovative measurement tools for regional and local economic development. So I do most of my research in regional and local economic development, and we are two presenters. It's me and Professor Natanya Meyer, also from UJ, from the College of Business and Economics here in South Africa. So thank you for this opportunity. We are, as I said, from South Africa. At the moment, we have got quite a good situation in terms of the COVID-19. We are past our second wave, and hopefully we're going to miss a third wave. We exited the second wave in mid-March, and the predictions are that we could be going into a third wave end of April, but we're hoping for the best, and hopefully we can miss that third wave. We do a lot of multidimensional research in terms of economic development, entrepreneurship, and public management, and we try to put all three those research fields into one system and see what results we can get. And we want to present you some examples of the work that we've done over the last 5 to 7 years on regional and local economic development, with a focus on the role that entrepreneurship plays, and that is a very important part of any development economics study. Let's see if I can change slides. I can do that. All right. So firstly, let's look at the problem. And the problem that we saw some 5-6 years ago is that the measurement of economic development is very complicated and a difficult process. And if you compare it to economic growth, there's a big difference, and economic development is not the same as economic growth. Economic growth is just a measurement of all of the outputs of all of the sectors and aggregate expenditure in an economy, while economic development is much more than that. It includes economic growth, but it's much more than that. And it includes the lifting of standards of living of people, quality of life, and it's uplifting everybody in a country, very much linked to inclusive growth. You can actually say it's basically the same thing. Economic development and inclusive growth could be very much the same story. But how do we measure economic development on a multinational, national, regional, and local regional level? That was the question I was asking myself all of the time. And how can we improve on the existing tools that is out there, which includes HDI, GDP per capita, which are not very useful tools, and it's very outdated. You even get a miserable country index, where they take inflation and unemployment and they add it together. You get the miserable country index. South Africa, one of the leaders in that index. You get the happy country index, where you ask people their quality of life, their satisfaction with life index, to see what is their economic development. But we felt none of these indexes were measuring everything about economic development. And since 2013, we had a twofold research focus. The first one was to see the impact of entrepreneurship and small businesses on regional and local economic development. And the second one was, which I'm doing, is my niche field of research and that I do most of my work in, is the development of the measurement tools for regional and economic development. And over this time, we have created a number of these types of tools. I'm handing over to my co-presenter, Natanya, please, if you can then continue.
Thank you. So as Donnie mentioned, it's very important to focus on these two economic development focus areas, as we generally only refer to economic growth as a country or economic development as a country. So the focus of all of these tools and the bulk of our research is then basically on regional and local economic development. So if you think of a triangle, you would see the base of the triangle as the local economic development, the midsection as the regional development, and only the top little part as the general or overall economic development of a country. And if the base of this pyramid or this house is not well established, the rest of it at the top will be weak. So that is why we focus so much on local and also regional economic development, because if there's a good growth and a good development concept in those two levels, it automatically leads up to improved economic growth and development on country level. So I think if we just look at the notes on the right-hand side, so regional and local economic development is everyone's business and it requires local champions. So in our area, we work quite often with our local chambers of commerce and with, supposedly we should be working with the municipal offices, but we don't have that many good offices in this area at the moment. But it should be a partnership between all of these parties. So you have the community, you have the government, and you have the local businesses that should be working together. As I said, it's building blocks, and these building blocks needs to be in place for the economy to actually grow. And then in South Africa, we have some legal requirements in terms of local economic development under Section 153 of the Constitution. And I'm pretty sure there's other legislation also in other countries on local economic development. So just to briefly define local and regional economic development, it is all socio-economic activities and initiatives by all local economic development partners. As I mentioned, that triangle, so we've got the government, business, and the community within a demarcated geographical area. So it could be a local area, or if you move one level up, maybe on regional level, and with an aim or a goal to facilitate economic development, job opportunities, and improved quality of life. So these are the four things that needs to be in place when we look at regional and local economic development. This is just a graphical representation of the whole system, and I see, as we are many academics from universities here today, we've sort of put this picture together to show the important role a university or a teaching institution plays in this triangle. You have the local business, local communities, local government. The university or the teaching facility is sort of the oil that puts all of these things together, because we provide education, we provide research opportunities, we sometimes work very closely with some of these sectors to actually assist in policy development and research development. So this is just, as I mentioned, a graphical representation of how the university actually fits into this triangle of local economic development and this overall process.
Thank you, and continue with the next slide. Just to add to this, the university, in my view, as part of these three local stakeholders in a local area of business, local communities and local government, the university is trusted, it is objective, and can play a massive role in development of all 3D sectors in a local region. We have developed so far 14 measurement tools to analyze local regions, and we have tested all of them. We are refining them as we carry on, and we are trying to improve all of the time, and we invite people to test them in their local regions. It's not only developed for developing countries, but also for developed countries. It could be used anywhere in the world. So there's 14 different ones. The ones in bold is the 4 that we're going to go into a little bit more detail. But there's something for everybody. It's about small business, best practice incubator, what's needed for an incubator to be successful, what's needed for a local business chamber to be successful in a local region, how to measure rural regions. We've got a rural classification system, rapid rural assessment. You can just drive through a local region, and with this assessment tool, you can do an assessment within 1 hour and realize what is happening in a local region. We've got a lift poverty index that we have adapted from the main one. We've done a municipal financial health index with my PhD student, Rowan Neetling, that is also in this meeting today. We've done a regional tourism competitiveness index with my other PhD student, Tanya van der Skyf. We have done a multivariable location content index measuring competitiveness of various sectors within a local region. And local government risk management tool is existing. And I've also done a serious game with real cards like Monopoly cards and playing games, developing strategy for local regions, playing it with local mayors, local councillors, local business people to develop strategies. But we're going to look at these 4 that in bold: local government enabling environment, the inclusive growth index, the multidimensional regional economic development index, and the economic development potential tool. Those 4, we're going to go quickly into them and look at it. But as I say, we're testing it everywhere, we're refining and we're improving as we carry on. Nothing is perfect in life as we see it. Just give some foundation and some background on LED best practices. In 2014, I did a systematic literature review study and tried to identify the most important aspects of LED and regional economic development. I identified some keywords on the left, and I changed and adapted it into themes. And you can see the various themes and so on. You can look at it later on. You can even read the article on this. This workshop is about innovation and knowledge. And innovation and knowledge in terms of this analysis that I did, I think about 100 documents that I worked through. Innovation and knowledge is ranked number 9. So every 0.23 documents, so every quarter of all documents had importance of innovation and knowledge in it, and the most important aspect was decentralized strategic planning and institutional development. If you haven't got institutional strengths like good governance, then you cannot have good LED development anywhere in the world. Inclusive development is important. Entrepreneurship is number 5 there. Cluster development, like Ruan is working on special economic zones. That's important, rank number 3. Competitiveness of local regions is number 2. So there's a lot of information in this slide, but I'm not going to go through all of this. Just show us the main issues with regard to local and regional economic development. And then now tool number 1, and Natanya is going to explain us the enabling environment assessment tool. I will mute and then she can proceed with this one. Thank you.
Okay, so as Donnie said, we're going to be discussing in a little bit more detail 4 of these tools that he just referred to on one of the previous slides. In actual fact, each one of these tools can be a session on its own because it's quite a lot of information in it, and we've done quite a lot of studies on it to actually test and prove that these tools actually work. So I will be discussing and showing you a little bit more on the first one, enabling environment. This one is quite close to home for me because it directly links to the environment that a business or entrepreneur needs to actually start and survive in an economy. So just to give you a little bit of background or the definition, an enabling development environment is defined as a set of policies, institutions, support services, and other conditions that collectively improve or create a general business setting where enterprises and business activities can start, develop, and of course we want them to grow. Such an enabling environment boosts the competitiveness of a specific region or area. So when we look at the enabling environment, this is a situation or a ecosystem, if you can call it like that, that needs to be in place in an area for businesses, firstly to start, to actually develop, and eventually to grow into bigger businesses, because we all know if a business is quite big and they grow, then they add to the economy in a higher proportion by means of taxes, they promote more employment, etc. And if this enabling environment is not there for businesses to actually thrive or survive in, then they will not be successful, and then this will have a direct impact on the local, regional, and then eventually the country's economic condition. So what we have done, we've developed a quantitative research instrument, so it's a questionnaire where we actually go out and ask businesses and the community members and even the government officials to complete, where they assess the environment they are actively working or operating in regarding these 12 factors. And then based on that, we can actually see how they perceive their environment, where they actually need to be running on managing this business. And this is also a very nice tool to compare different local regions and economies to each other to see if there is more development and a better enabling environment from one area to the next. So we've tested the progress of this factor or this tool. We looked at South Africa, obviously. We tested it in quite a few areas in South Africa, the Netherlands, Poland. And then based on that, we also had a lot of experts from these countries who gave their inputs when we developed this and tested this tool initially, so that we made sure that the factors that we added into this are the actual factors that needs to be in place for a business to survive. As I mentioned, the scale has been tested and validated. And here are just 3 of the articles that we've actually done on this. I think there's been quite a few afterwards. Some of our masters and PhD students has also used this scale in their PhDs as a supporting scale or tool to actually measure and see how business is progressing in a specific area. Okay, so this was one of the areas where we tested. It was a workshop we did initially in 2015 to test the actual tools or the factors. So don't worry too much about this numbers here because it was for that study. But if we look at the 12 factors, and those of you who work a lot on maybe the entrepreneurial ecosystem would find some of these factors familiar because they are overlapping in some areas. But firstly, we have local government structures, policies, and initiatives. So effective integrative policies and initial institutional capacity is required in line with the principles of good governance, which includes the principles of a compact and streamlined institution. So we need local government structures, policies, and initiatives to work together. We need local leadership. That's very important. Strong local leadership includes political stability and is a requirement for the development of a local area. We all know if there's not good leadership and if the current political structure is under stress or not doing well, then it has a ripple effect into business and also into a lot of other factors. Poverty alleviation and social development initiatives is the 3rd factor. So local development is not only about economic development, but obviously also to improve the quality of life of local communities. because if you have stronger communities who are not living in poverty, they also contribute to the local economy by spending and a whole lot of other factors. The next one is economic development initiatives. So inclusive economic development leading to growth with jobs is required for any successful region. Jobs lead to improvement in quality of life and overall development. Then we need environmental and spatial development plans. An area cannot develop if the environment is not considered, because it will only go to a certain extent and then people wouldn't want to come to that area anymore if there was maybe environmental degradation or decline. We see this in a local area where we stay. We stay next to the Vaal River, which is one of the largest rivers in South Africa. And over the years, it has really become a beautiful tourist destination with a lot of activities. But recent times, because of weak government and infrastructure degradation, where the local government is not looking after the area and a lot of sewer and pollution is running into this river, this has had a negative effect on all the businesses along that tourism corridor of this river. So we've seen this firsthand, that if you do not look at the environment and you do not have plans to also factor into environmental sustainability, then this will have a direct impact on the enabling environment. Then we have infrastructure development. I think this one speaks for itself. If you have an area where there's not good infrastructure, electricity is poor, there's bad roads, train connections or stations aren't working anymore, such as a lot of areas, unfortunately, in South Africa. This has a huge impact on business and specifically on the local businesses, because it's difficult for them then to do their main thing without this infrastructure. Then we have human resource development. So the lack of skilled workers, entrepreneurial development and promotion, marketing and management skills are all barriers to development. And I think if you listen to Thomas, the previous presenter, he mentioned that actually entrepreneurship is an issue in one of their regions that he measured in. So there's a lot of aspects that you can actually introduce to improve entrepreneurship. And here also the university plays a very significant role. Then I'm almost done. Entrepreneurship development is our third or fourth last one. The establishment of a culture of entrepreneurship and skills development is a long-term investment and is necessary for building competitive and advanced industries. As I mentioned, having entrepreneurs in the area and a whole entrepreneurial culture improves a lot of things. It brings innovation, it brings job creation, so it has a positive effect on the area. Transport and access opportunities. This also links quite well to the infrastructure factor. Then agriculture development, and lastly, safety and security. So if we don't have safe environments and businesses are forever needing to implement stricter crime or crime prevention policies, it has a negative effect on their growth. And in an area where there's a lot of crime and a lot of unsafe situations, a business might decide to actually leave and go to another area. So in a nutshell, these are the 12 factors that we've tested over time that needs to be in place in an area for businesses to actually start, survive and thrive. And as I said, this is a whole workshop that we can actually do one session on. So if you're interested, maybe Vita, we can do a follow-up on this one, because it directly links to a lot of things that we will be discussing today in the rest of the workshop. Thanks, and Dani, over to you.
All right, thank you. And then we're going to tool number 2, the Economic Development Potential Assessment Tool. This concept was developed by Paul Romer, and he was the Nobel Prize winner in 2019, as well as work done by Edward Blakely, the guru of LED globally. He did the book on practice and theory of LED. So those two guys, but they never formulated the various factors that plays a role in the development potential of a region. And I felt that there's a gap in the research. I need to look at those factors and identify those factors. But the overall formula that was used in development potential for a region is development potential equals to resources R multiplied by capacity. So you've got resources in a region, you've got capacity in a region, which is C, and that gives you an answer. So I have quantified those two theories by Romer and Blakely into a tool, doing some literature review and some research across the world. And various reasons could then be assessed and compared if you've got this data available. We can use both secondary data and primary data collection for the best results. And this tool has been tested. Let me just show you how it looks like. So this is the classification and scoring system that I developed for it. So you can get an index from 0 to 100. And you get a high development potential area, medium and low development potential area according to your index and your scoring system. And these are the scores from 0 to 10. So there's no capacity, no resources in a specific factor. You get a 0. If you've got full abundance of capacity and resources, you get a maximum score. So let's look at an example. So you've got resources on the left-hand side here with 11 factors as listed, and you've got capacity factors. There's 12 of them that you give a score out of 10. So you've got natural resources, strategic locality, labor resources, investment, public transport, communication, industrial composition, exports, government spending, markets, and finance as your resources. That adds up to a score here. You take the average out of 10. For this example, Mfuleni, which is a local region, scored 5 out of 10 as an average score on this. And other areas were also tested in the region. And then we have your capacity factors, government, the capacity for government to work hard. You'll see lack of acceptable good governance in Mfuleni. They have basically stopped working that government. They have been replaced by administrators. So they've got a 1 out of 10, basically no capacity there. Business, infrastructure, social services, technology, innovation, education, political, entrepreneurship, size of the economy, the community capacity, and then partnerships. Then you get your average score out of 10 again. You multiply the resources, multiply by capacity, and you get a score. And you will realize then this process is quite interesting. If you've got, like Mfuleni's got 5 out of 10 for resources, 5.5 for capacity, you get 27.5 basically out of 100, low development potential. If you have a region that is, let's say, 9 out of 10 for resource, a lot of resources, natural resources and stuff like that, but poor capacity of, let's say, 1 out of 10, 9 times 1 gives you 1 out of 100. So you need to have both your resources and your capacity at a high level to score a good development potential index. So anything above 70 is a high development potential. These 3 regions which I've tested here are low development potential. It's just a combination of poor results from your capacity and your resources. This is just in a very short nutshell how it looks like and how it's calculated. More detail on these tools we'll make available if anybody is interested in this. We're going to the third one, and this is for me my flagship project that I did initially with colleagues Natanya and Jacques de Jong at Northwest University, and I've developed it further over time, and we've done many research papers on this tool. But it's basically the main development economics regional index that you can find. It has 18 variables where HDI or GDP per capita has got 1 or 2 variables. So we can test the multidimensional nature of regional and local economic development via 18 indicators, and 4 sub-indexes is possible to develop from this index. And data for this system is available globally. In South Africa, we use Quantec and Global Insight IHS data, but it is annual data that we can use, so we can update this on an annual basis. And variables, the 18 variables or indicators were also weighted through international export processes where we ask international gurus, how do they feel these 18 indicators, what is their weighting that they can allocate to them. And then we developed, this is an example of South Africa and all of the 9 provinces where we analyzed all of the provinces in terms of their development index. And you will see that all of the 18 variables are listed here with sub-indexes. First sub-index is demographic development, consisting of population growth, population household size, population densities, level of urbanization. So that's all about demographics. Then we have got the social development sub-index, HDI, Gini coefficient, inequality levels, poverty levels, literacy, the infrastructure index of a region, informal housing, and the crime index. And then we've got the third one is our labor index, economic active population, unemployment levels. And the fourth one is more the economics one, GDP growth, GDP per capita, trade surplus, income of households, and the trace index, which is your diversification index. All of this together with the weighting applied to it gives you an index out of 100. South Africa scored a score in 1996 of 33.9. It went up to 44.4. And all of the provinces, we can do this. We can do this for any local region and then compare over time. Is there improvement or not? Because to improve economic development over time takes a lot of time. And from this, we can see the 18 variables. Where is the problem? So this is a strategic development index that we use to create strategies for the various levels of regions. Right, Natanya will do the fourth tool, and then we're going to conclude. Thank you.
Okay, so the fourth one is about inclusive growth, the inclusive growth index. And again, it links to all the other indexes we've discussed, because we don't want to just see growth in general. We want to see inclusive growth, which is actually growth that's sustainable in the long run, and it's broad-based across all sectors and including all sectors or partners within the economy. So we're not actually looking only at growth in general, where sometimes in many of the countries with high growth, it's only an elite part of the group or the country that benefits from this. So there was a gap in the research for a comprehensive tool to measure inclusive growth, and that is why we actually came up with this one. So this index looks at 8 predictors that actually includes all aspects to make sure that if all 8 of these predictors grow or improve, some must go up, some must go down, as you'll see in the next slide. This actually makes a more holistic picture of the economy and how everyone is growing, and not just when we just look at GDP per capita, where only a few people might be benefiting. Again, Dani and I, we've tested this in the Visegrad countries and also in the BRICS countries, and this index actually works very well. You can go to the next slide. So here you can see the 8 indicators or predictors of inclusive growth. So when we actually group these 8 together, again, we took a stance to ask a lot of international experts on the actual balance and the weighting. You'll see there on the right-hand side on the screen, there's a weight allocation. So we don't consider all 8 of these aspects equal. We weight them, and then at the end you get one index to look at the inclusive growth. And once again, it's a very nice factor or indicator to actually compare countries or regions to each other. So just to quickly go through the 8 predictors. So we've got an employment to population ratio. This we want higher. If it's higher, it's better. GDP per capita annual growth. Also, if it's higher, it's better. Poverty, we want lower. Income equality, we want lower. Infrastructure would be better if it's higher. Education and health the same. And then the last one, the dependency ratio. So if all 8 these indicators or predictors are grouped together with the weighting you see on the side, you get one index, and this is the inclusive growth index that gives a more holistic or a better viewpoint of an area's growth and progression.
But the last slide was just a conclusion, and I'm just going to go through it quickly. Our research tries to contribute to the body of knowledge in the field of development economics with multidimensional linkages to public management and regional economic development. These tools were formulated to be very user-friendly. Anybody can use them, and they're very practical. The tools could be used anywhere in the world, developed countries, developing countries, regions, local municipalities, anywhere. And the tools are useful for economic progress analysis, comparative analysis, strategy development, training of people in developmental economics, including communities, municipal workers, even the mayoral committee could be using these things and we can train them. Promotion of the concepts of regional and local economic development. We are promoters of the system. Not a lot of people know how it works. And future research, we want to refine and improve our tools. I'm busy doing a resilience index to test if there's shocks like COVID, like economic shocks, like tsunamis, anything. What is the resilience of a region to recover quickly from stuff like this, as well as competitiveness indexes. Two of my students are working on different models also. One is doing a special economic zones model to see what is the best practice for that on a global scale. And the last one is a decision-making model for road infrastructure investment. How do you decide where to invest in terms of a region to improve the roads? Road infrastructure investment leads to economic development overall. I cannot show our contact details, but I'm sure we can put it on the chat, our emails. If anybody wants to use this or do it, we want to test it also in your regions. So you're very welcome to contact us. Maybe Natanya wants to close off with something also. Thank you.
Yes, I think to work on all of these tools and to use them to actually come to very conclusive and interesting results is something we enjoy in research. And as Dani said, we are really welcome to any partnership or collaboration, and it would be lovely for us if anyone is interested in any of these tools that we can share it with you and maybe do some comparative studies with different countries and regions using these tools. So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. Vita, thank you for you and your whole team for inviting us and thinking about us. And I really hope you enjoyed it and you can take home something that can be useful in future.
Thank you, dear professors, Professor Natanya and Professor Daniel. It was so great to hear your presentation, as I had this honor few years ago to meet you in Brna in Poland in the conference, and I heard your presentation for the very first time, and I really was impressed by how many different indexes your team is collaborating on and how many tools you are creating to enable our scientists as well as practitioners to have tools to measure what is happening in the regions and what kind of measures, tools, programs, priorities should be emphasized according to the data. As we have possibility to give some questions on the chat line, I see that there is a comment from Roan. And if you let me, I will give this as a question or approach for discussion. He finds the indexes very interesting. Can be used on a universal scale. I do think that the importance of the individual indicators are highly dependent on whether the country is developed or developing. Nevertheless, I think these indicators are very useful to evaluate the level of economic development. So could you make a comment? Is it possible to adapt or to use your provided indicators in different economic development level countries?
Yes, thanks Vita, and thanks for Ruan for that question. We have tested most of these indexes and tools in developed countries, also specifically in the Visegrad countries, and they were quite good in terms of the results that were given. I have also tested some of them in the US and with our partner university, University of Kentucky, and very good results also there. So similar results. So what we've done is when we compiled those factors within an index, we did a lot of work and find out in terms of the literature, what are the real factors that could predict, for example, inclusive growth, what can predict the enabling environment, what can predict the development potential of a region. So we did a lot of homework before we finalized it. But as I said, all our indexes are open for refinement, improvement. For the multidimensional regional economic development index, my flagship one, I'm going to do a reassessment soon, asking international experts again, and you will be part of my panel, all of you in this meeting. What do you feel, are these the real 18 variables, and what are their weights? Are we still agreeing with the weighting system? So definitely be open for discussion and improvement all of the time. Thanks,
So thank you very much, professors, for your very interesting presentation, as we found many different tools we may use in our researches, and maybe to, as you have invited, to make a comparative analysis from different countries. So I'm quite sure we will have many questions in the discussion part. So if you let me, I will ask thank you, and I will ask the third presenter to make the presentation. And after this, we will come back and we will continue the discussion with you, Professor. So thank you both for very informative and exciting presentation about measurement of regional economic development. So as we have the third presenter, so I would like to ask Professor Daniela Georgieva from the International School of Business from Bulgaria to share her presentation. Daniela, are you with us?
Thank you very much. As Associate Professor Vita Yuknevichin mentioned, my name is Daniela Georgieva, and with my colleague, Professor Teodora Georgieva, we have the honor and the opportunity to present in front of you some data regarding the innovativeness of our country, Bulgaria, and more precisely, the innovation profiles of our regions. We would like to express our deepest gratitude toward the Associate Professor Vita Yuknevichin and her colleagues from Research Excellence Network for providing us this opportunity. Unfortunately, due to some unexpected circumstances, Professor Georgieva was not able to attend today's lecture. She is deeply sorry for that, and she is wishing all of us luck and health, of course. What you can expect from today's presentation is I'm going to just give a brief information regarding Bulgaria as a country and its innovativeness, some data regarding the regions in Bulgaria, and data on some of the indicators used for measuring innovativeness will be presented as well. Good practices, conclusions, and recommendations will be drawn and added to the presentation. Bulgaria is a country in Southeast Europe, and it's the 16th largest country in Europe. It has an upper middle income range market economy where the private sector accounts the most share of the GDP. At the end of 2019, the population in Bulgaria is less than 7 million people, with a tendency of decreasing, which, however, could be seen in most parts of Europe. Quite favorable for the entrepreneurship and innovation development in our country is the fact that we have one of the lowest corporate income tax rates, with a flat rate of 10%. However, Bulgaria is in the group of the modest innovators. And even though that the indicator has slightly increased through the years, we still couldn't manage to reach our target goal. By the end of 2020, our R&D expenditures to be 1.5% of the national GDP. We managed to reach around half of our target goal. On a regional level, according to data from the Regional Innovation Scoreboard in 2019, there is a convergence between the countries in Europe, but primarily those which are in the group of strong leader and moderate innovators. As you can see from the map, most parts of Romania and Bulgaria are colored in red, and we are in the group of the modest innovators as well in our regional level primary, and this in hand is distancing us from the European average. In Bulgaria, there are 6 main regions, and the only region which is showing data to be a moderate innovator is the Southwestern Planning region, with quite leading positions in terms of R&D expenditures, organizational marketing innovations, and educational level. Probably it will not be surprising to you to know that the capital city is placed in this region. The only region in Bulgaria which is having no leading positions on national average level in terms of any of the indicators used for measuring innovativeness is the South Center Planning Region, but according to us, this is the region which is having quite a good position in terms of development and innovations based on our smart specialization strategy, which we are going to talk about later on. The Southeastern Planning Region is having quite a favorable numbers in terms of citations and joint publications between the public and private sector. The only region in Bulgaria which is the worst developed region, this is the Northwestern Planning Region. Still, however, it is having some quite leading and good numbers in terms of product and process innovations, share of new SMEs, and sales of new products to the market. This could be partly explained by the fact that the majority of the open calls for project proposals were targeting those indicators. The North Central Planning Region is having quite a favorable numbers in terms of patent applications, while the Northeastern Planning Region in terms of people with a high-level education degree, expenditures for non-R&D innovations and design applications. Some of the indicators which are used for measuring innovativeness are the R&D staff and R&D spendings. And what you can see in the slide is I have tried to gather some data and to present to you what is the change on those two indicators in 2019 compared to 2018. And in the green arrows, you can see the change in the R&D staff numbers, and in blue arrows is shown the change in the R&D spendings. Not surprisingly for us, the only region which is showing worsening data on those two indicators is Northwestern Planning Region. Even though that there is a decrease in the R&D staff in the Southwestern Planning Region, still because of the capital city, the majority of the workflow force, is focused there. In percentage, it's around 33% of the working population. And besides, around 10% of the working age population there is employed in high-tech activities, which however is around double on a national average. So this drop of the indicator is not quite an issue according to me. Based on the other planning regions, you can see that the indicators is increasing, and in terms of R&D spendings, we can say that the most increasement or the high value of increasement could be accounted and is accounted actually in the three main regions in Bulgaria where the three biggest cities are placed, Sofia, Plovdiv and Varna. So in hence it's not quite a surprising situation, because in most of the countries where the biggest cities are, there the majority of the population is living and working, and the most investments are allocated there. We decided to give you some data regarding our patent activity as well, and it's because in Bulgaria it's quite hard to find such quantitative data, and this information is primarily hand collected. So you can see that in 2019 we managed to reach our 10-year peak on those indicators, and the numbers are almost equal to the data from 1999. The patents that are issued for patent inventions are primarily in the sector of cosmetics, food and oil extraction from oil plants. The majority of the patents are issued to individuals, while the public sector is primarily represented by the different institutions of the Bulgarian Academy of Science and some universities. Unfortunately, the business sector is not quite active in terms of patent applications and patent activity. When we talk about distributions of those patents, as you can see on the map, and not surprisingly, the majority of the patents are allocated in the capital city. But if we delete capital city from the map, we can say that the Southwestern Planning Region is almost free of patents, and it's actually, based on this indicator, in a last place from all of the 6 planning regions. Relatively uniform distribution can be seen in the South Central, South North and Northeastern Planning Region. And this is one of the reasons we think that the South-Western planning region, South Central, planning region is having quite a favorable possibilities for future innovation development. This, and additionally with the fact that there is quite high numbers of utility models, as well as some good and high numbers of projects which were applied and developed under the Horizon 2020 program. And even though that such kind of projects and such kind of data could not be seen as a factor for measuring innovativeness, this is the moment where I should focus your attention of the fact that in Bulgaria there are two main national instruments for supporting innovations. Those are the National Science Fund and the National Innovation Fund. In 2019, they have provided less than 5% of the total support for science and innovations. So the majority of the organizations, nonetheless, if they are in the public or private sector, are relying mainly on European Union funds, which, however, I think that it's very common in most of the European countries. So because of that concentration of project, as well as the fact that there is a high level of business and research opportunities there, we think that this region is quite favorable in terms of innovations. And we can say that in Bulgaria, we have a nationally center-oriented innovation strategy and system. And our smart specialization strategy is trying to reflect some of those region needs. On the slide, you can see some of the priority areas for our smart specialization strategy. And even though that data is from the period 2014-2020, nowadays there is a working team group working for the next project period and the next priority areas. And what I managed to collect this data is that the priority areas for the next period will be the same as well. In 2019, our government has announced its intention to establish a regional innovation centers outside the capital city, which will be used as an instrument for business-led innovations. And the priority areas for those regional innovation centers are the same as what you can see on the slide. In Bulgaria, there are many good examples which are related to innovations as a whole, but with my colleague, we discussed this a lot and decided to present to you just 3 of those good practices. The first one is our technology transfer centers. The first 9 transfer centers were established in 2005 under the 6th framework program of the European Union, and they were established in the big universities in Bulgaria. Nowadays, their number has increased, and of course, their sphere of activities has widened up, covering research and development, agriculture, human health, engineering, and so on. And why we see this as a good practice is because of the allocated resources, the expertises gathered through the years are seen as stepping stones for the creation and development of the regional innovation centers. Another good example is a digital platform called Geographic Information System, which was developed by the municipality of Gabrovo, which is a municipality in North Central Planning Region. And through this platform, the municipality has gathered data regarding the economic development and innovation development of the public organizations, as well as business organizations and research units, and present them in a form of interactive maps. And this platform is giving an opportunity for the users to use user-friendly way to access additional services provided by the business and by the municipality as well. So we see this as a good practice because it's a stepping stone, I say that way, for our smart city concept. And another good practice is our digital agro hub called AgroHub Beijing. And it's a digital platform trying to connect all stakeholders in terms of our agriculture sector, which was quite well developed in the past. And is trying to solve some of the issues of this sector. In terms of innovations, this digital platform is trying to create awareness, access to expertise, to give data of good practices, not only in Bulgaria, but worldwide in terms of digitization, different technology used in the agrarian sector, and so on. And it is giving opportunity for joint research as, of course, share of knowledge. Even though I said that there are a lot of good practices, of course, there are a lot of fields for improvement. And what made me impression outside of these conclusions and recommendations that you are going to see on the slide is that we have with the last presenters some common issues, let's say that way. As the last presenter said that, if I understand it correctly, one of the issues is the governmental structure. So in Bulgaria, we see it as well in that way because of quite the bureaucracy, quite administrative burdens, and quite of lack or focused organizations. So I saw that in Lithuania there was some suggestions concerning the improvement of skills of the administration, which, however, I think it's something that should be done in Bulgaria as well. To keep in mind the cooperation and good examples, it was said by your deputy mayor, and I think that it's a good recommendation in Bulgaria as well, because we can say that due to the data I've managed to briefly present to you today, we can say that there is a big gap between our regions as a whole, and it is due to weak cooperation between business and science. The fact that there is a low investments in R&D activities, both in public and private sectors, unfortunately, and the business is not so active as whole. Some of our previous researches, we try to manage and to try to make interviews with representatives from the autarky groups. Unfortunately, they show that there is a lack of intentions for such kind of joint cooperation and, for example, to establish a organization, legal entity where this cooperation could be legally further on improved. And another interesting fact maybe of your participants will be that there is an issue if reporting R&D activities, innovations in Bulgaria, which however is leading to creation of the phenomena of the hidden innovation. And this in fact is something that according to us should be improved, because here I'm not talking about a voluntary disclosure of data regarding innovations by companies, but mandatory data that should be by law presented to the public as whole. So, dear colleagues, thank you for your attention. You can see our coordinates and emails of me and my colleague on the slide. And of course, I'm open for any discussions and questions that may arise. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Daniela, and for your colleague, Professor Teodora, that you have prepared this interesting presentation about this regional development issues connected to innovation management in regions. And as I have mentioned already, all participants may give some questions in the chat line, as well as to raise the hand and to have opportunity to make a question for you directly. But I see the comment from Professor Ron. He's writing, part of my study is evaluated the success of special economic zones in Bulgaria. I found that Bulgaria have some success in terms of special economic development, but not major successes. Rakovsky EDS, situated in the Plovdiv city, is the best, says in the country. Very interesting. Rakovsky EDS are situated in the very important location in the EU. So maybe you may share your ideas how special economic zones contribute to the regional development, and would you agree with your colleague with this special comment on special economic zones?
Thank you so much for the question. Yes, the colleague is quite true. Plovdiv is placed in the South Central Planning region and is the second biggest city in Bulgaria. So basically, Plovdiv were once, I think, capital in Bulgaria as well, or it was having some intentions to be as well. So it is well developed in terms of productions and agriculture and food as well. So as I mentioned, unfortunately, one of the best places that were business developed are only Sofia, Plovdiv and Varna, even though there are quite good opportunities for business development in many of the other regions. So unfortunately, as I said, we are looking for the last years is that the business is not quite willing to cooperate in the public sector as a whole or with some universities and research institutions. Maybe quite interesting fact would be that during our researches we saw that even there are some businesses which are trying to establish connections with universities or academic institutions for the creation of R&D, but those are such kind of researches that are hidden in a way of a donation, for example, no legal contract or no something that could be reported as whole. So basically, if we put out the Sofia city from the map and we try to manage this issue with the hidden innovation and the reporting process, probably the data you're mentioning could be a little bit different, because business organizations are not reporting quite well their activities, and I'm specifically talking of the business organizations which are applying the national accounting standards. But in terms of international accounting standards and international companies allocated in my country, there is a difference in this data. So they are more willing and they see it as a prestige to make more reports on a national level.
And we have a question from Professor Angela James. She's asking what chemistry-focused innovations are in the place, and do these innovations also include school and community youth groups?
Yes, thank you so much. Regarding the chemistry focus, I need to check this data. But in Bulgaria, there are a lot of activities involving schools and universities in relation to entrepreneurship and innovation activities. For example, we have a lot of NGOs which are involved as well. But what made me impression is that those activities are primarily targeting the creation of new ideas and entrepreneurship creation as whole. Unfortunately, in most cases, when a new organization is established based on such kind of innovative idea, most of the teams or most of the people working in this organization, because they're primary micro-organizations, are hardly to manage the first year of their activity, and most of them are under requisition because they cannot survive. What is primary an issue according to me is that the majority of the teaching activities in schools, primary schools, universities, NGOs are targeting how to create an idea, how to establish a corporation or just a small firm, but they're not targeting the afterwards issues, how to manage and how to actually survive, how to make your money, and how to invest in the creation of new knowledge. So unfortunately, yes, there are a lot of such kind of activities and a lot of innovations that are, or creation of new knowledge, more precisely, that are involved in schools and universities, but still this is not an issue according to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Daniela. We have mentioned special economic zones, and as I know, one of such zones is situated in the municipality area where our deputy mayor works. So, Thomas, are you here? And maybe you can share the experience of free economic zone success in your region, as I know it's quite successful project in your region. So how it contributes to the regional development?
Yes, actually we have the free economic zone, one of the 5 in Lithuania. And actually for the period of 10 years, we were struggling to find a suitable operator for this free economic zone because of because when you don't have the operator, you couldn't proceed in exploiting this free economic zone. But we were lucky; we get in contact with quite a big company who were looking for a place to invest to create new factory, because before us they had a company in Klaipėda region and wanted to build new factory much bigger in an area in north of Lithuania or south of Latvia, and we managed to get in contact with them. And then now the 3 years further, we have one very big company that's already working there, and many more plans for the future. So yeah, this is a very big cooperation between private sector and public sector in this free economical zone, because we as a local government are quite advocates for the national government in order to build a common infrastructure together, because this free economical zone is established close to our capital city in Akmenė of the region, and there is a 60 hectares diameter, and there is the railroad, there was the electricity lines that needs to be improved, and the railroad ways to be built, the new ones, and to make it only for the local government is not possible, because those infrastructure products are very expensive, and to find a solution with the national government was very much in need, because the new infrastructure would be national owned, not local government owned. So I think this case is very important in order to look how the local government cooperates with the private sector, with the national government, in order to establish new workplaces as a free economical zone in regions. So, yeah, that's the case. But maybe you can ask more specifics, I think, if you have.
Thank you so much, Thomas. As we know that Lithuania has few free economic zones, and we have several researchers how it contributes to the regional development, and we hope that in your regions, when this free economic zone appeared and started the activity, we hope for some progress in this field as well. And I see that we have some questions from the chat line. I see that Rowan is writing for you, Thomas, a question. He thinks that special economic zones are very successful in Lithuania. One of them are in Klaipėda, free economic zone. The country is very innovative in terms of foreign investments. So maybe I will add some question. How this free economic zone created in Akmenė was created? Was it only local or regional investments, or as we know, always it's about EU funds? So what about this case? Was the European Union support used for the development of this specific economic zone?
That's a discussion about free economical zones, where they should be in a country and where they could be in a country. And those free economical zones were established in Lithuania, I guess, by the law 15 years ago, something about 2000. And there are few in Lithuania. There are one in Klaipėda, one in Šiauliai, also Marijampolė, I guess, Kaunas region, and maybe there's also the ones Kėdainiai. But the question is, where should they be? Because we also, as a regional municipality, are discussing that, you know, we compared to the bigger cities are not in equal competition with the bigger cities for the new workplaces, for the bigger companies to come there and establish no workplaces. And we got this point of view that, you know, those 3 economical zones should be established more in a regional areas in order to help them to fight unemployment and etc. But to look at the map that I briefly present you, there are one economical zone in Klaipėda, one in Kaunas area, close to the bigger cities. Ron wrote about a successful story of Klaipėda. Yes, they are doing quite a good job according to managing of this 3 economical zone, but this company that I present to you that came to our economical zone, they were also working in this Klaipėda economical zone, but we're struggling because they were limited of the land that could be used, because this area is close by to the Klaipėda city itself, and because of the pollution that they are producing and the struggles with the national territorial plans, they are not able to grow up to increase the territory. Therefore, this other company came to us while looking for the territory to build a new factory. And what else did you ask about legislation?
About structural funds from the European Union.
Yeah, of course, there was EU funds used for those economical zones, but I'm not sure, but I heard that there's quite some EU limitations that the new economical zones cannot be established anymore because of the competitive rules of general EU. So there is the struggle, because now we have the 60 municipalities in Lithuania. I guess all of the mayors would like to have the 3 economical zones in their area, and there's limited amount of them that could be, and I think not anymore could be created. But the thing was that even though we had this economical zone, I said for 15 years, we didn't manage to make it work, because we couldn't find the operator. So this very important question of the national legislature, that how it's legislate the free economical zone work, because of before our success, you know, there was this tricky question. We need economical zone because we have unemployment issues, but companies don't want to operate those economical zones because they see no future in the region in order to find workers, etc. So this is a trickery that must be decided on a national wide, on a national legislature. And because we couldn't make this economical zone work properly for many years, we couldn't use the EU funding that were possible at those years. And we had the Minister of Economy coming to our area and said that I have some extra EU funding that we could use to your economic zone, but as you don't have an operator, you cannot use it. So we wasted this time. We're wasting 15 years that could be used more beneficially. Now we are happy that we managed to find a common solution, and we can together work with the national government in order to increase the infrastructure of the zone that we have now, and the needs that the common investor is facing. So therefore, we're happy that we managed to do it, but it's not that easy, I guess, that it had been before. But also there's the other question that everybody asks, you know, should the infrastructure be created in pre-economical zone and then the companies come, or other way? Should the companies come and then the infrastructure should be created? In the second way, this is the question of time that could be wasted in order to create this infrastructure. But otherwise, we can create infrastructure that would be totally useful for the company that may come, and those money that was invested before those European EU money to count to measure their effectiveness would be very interesting, but also very, I think that the results won't be so nice that we would like to see.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And we have the question from Professor Adam Jarosz from Poland. So Professor, hello. You may unmute yourself and give a question.
I would like to follow up the EU funding, because in country where I'm from, in Poland, this EU funds has been an impulse for a regional development in broader perspective. Thanks to EU funding, a lot of projects have been realized. And my question is to Bulgarian and Lithuanian colleagues, what was the role of EU structure and investment funds for regional development and regional innovations in your countries? In a bit broader perspective, I know it's a huge topic, but if you could at least indicate the most important sectors in which the investments using the EU funds have been made. Thank you very much.
So Daniela, would you mind to answer?
Of course, thank you so much for your questions. Yes, you're absolutely right that in terms of European Union support, we must think in the broad perspective. Unfortunately, some of the projects, according to me, didn't manage to reach their target goal for sustainability. Because for me, the target is actually these funds to be allocated where sustainability can be measured more easily. Still, it was a great help because, as you saw from the presentation, one of our worst developed regions is having some good positions in numbers related to the R&D, product, processes, innovations, and so on. What is in fact lacking in Bulgaria in terms of innovation is the fact that we are primarily oriented to innovations which are new to the firm or the organization or new to the market. So in terms of quite technological innovations, we are not having some good numbers or some good projects. So in this respect, we are primarily still and currently our projects are more or less in terms of organizational and marketing innovations than product innovations, and I'm talking about the high technology products. Still, it is the European Union funds are quite helpful in terms of primary establishing and helping the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Bulgaria, even though the majority of the new firms and the entrepreneurship ecosystem is primarily developed in the capital city. Still, it has some good opportunities for the other regions to establish their companies and to continue later on with in terms of cooperation and transfer of knowledge. I hope that it managed to answer some of your questions.
Thank you, Daniela. Professor Adam, maybe you have some experience from Poland and you would like to share your own country experience.
In terms of innovation, in Poland we have firstly we have quite similar situation with capital city. Yes, a lot of companies, a lot of business is concentrated in Warsaw, and if you look on those maps, even at your map of Europe with regional development and innovations, you could see it that Warsaw is much better developed than the rest of the country. But still, different things are developed. For example, digitalization is at quite good level in Poland. There are now big projects to develop this fast internet with lightning technology, or how it is called in English. But mostly until this perspective of 2000, the latest one, 2014 to 2020, the most focus was on the infrastructure, because the big Polish problem was very underdeveloped infrastructure. Yes, both motorways or railway lines, and this was the main focus of both national and regional policies. A lot of means were invested into this. Which means that, well, still there is a huge need for this innovation development. Yes, and probably in the upcoming perspective with all the EU restructuring fund and so on, this will be the focus, which will be like have much bigger priority, because, well, a lot of investment, a lot of infrastructural investments have been already done. A lot is still to do because, well, Poland is territorially quite a big country, but a lot have been done. So now we can expect this more putting more focus on innovations like developing own technologies, developing even further digitalization. Yes, paradoxically, for example, COVID situation helped to develop e-government and e-administration. Yes, because all the COVID related procedure was done via internet. Yes, you could get your test result and so on your computer via internet. Yes, and hopefully this will follow up to the further issues. Yes, and also just to finish this regional development and regional investments, especially using EU funds, also is targeted also to support companies. Yes, to support the firms and companies that develop some new technologies, new patents, new elements, own technologies. So definitely there is more and more focus put on that, and there are also such cooperations created, because you mentioned at some point the universities as important factor of regional innovations and regional development. This is also something that is a little bit backward in Poland, but gradually it develops. Yes, the cooperation between science and business. Yes, so developing technologies, making new research, and then trying to make things, the products that you can sell on the market. Yes, this is also something that still needs a lot of development, but it's slowly going step by step ahead, and Polish companies and universities are becoming more and more successful in that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Adam. I see that Professor Daniela would like to respond. Please, Daniela.
Thank you so much. And what you said make impression regarding the level of digitization in your country. I think in Bulgaria this is not the primary issue, because many of the companies are in high level of digitization. But what we see as an issue, and I would be very happy if you give me information about your country as well, is that a lot of people are lacking digitization skills. So even some of the basic knowledge, for example, office packets of the Microsoft Word, are very hard for them to learn and to use them in their work. And I even had the opportunity to be in one of our ministries where a colleague of mine asked me to show them how to use track changes and comments on the Word package, because for them it was very hard, and they have used and still in some points use notebooks and things like that. Of course, it's not common everywhere, but still, according to our data, less than 20% of the people knows how to use Excel, and less than 30% of people knows how to use the Word package, according to National Statistics Institute. So could you tell me, please, if it's a common situation in your country, or?
Well, to be honest, I don't know any statistical data like you, so it's hard to say it from this perspective. But from my research, from my experience as citizen and researcher, rather I haven't heard. The only problem is rather elderly people. Yeah, people who are older, who weren't raised using computers. They are not that good, but there are also different projects to learn the seniors. It's called, yes, how to use computers and how to use the new technologies. In this dimension, yes, and there are quite a lot of such projects, yes, which is not only digitalization itself, but also for older people important to socialize, to meet others, and so on. So in this terms, yes, but among the workforce, I haven't heard about such problems. It's not discussed. I think that every company or public, public units, administration offices, they simply teach people how to do it, because sometimes there are specialist programs that even I wouldn't be able to use, yes, because, for example, some accountant programs and things like this. but usually, as far as I know, the companies teach people how to do it, and there is not such a problem on such a bigger scale that the statistics would notice it in any way. Elderly people, yes, there are quite a lot of projects. Working people, rather not. Rather, there is no problem with such things.
Thank you so much, Professor Adam and Professor Daniela. I would like to address the question which is given for us in the chat line. Maybe I could ask Professor Daniel and Professor Natanya, as you have mentioned, you have many different conversations and discussions with practitioners. Our participant is giving the example from Bangladesh as a second largest RMG exporter globally. And in the case of Bangladesh, most of the RMG factories are concentrated based on only 3 cities. There has a huge population pressure, all those cities, and how can a free economic zone be effective policy to reduce population pressure in developing countries? Is free economic zone can be an effective policy for regional development? So Professor Daniel, maybe you can share your experience about free economic zones and regional development on the approach of regional development.
Right, thanks, Vita. Yes, I think there's different strategies and policies that countries can use. One is decentralization and the other one is concentration. So it depends on a specific country, but we know developing countries like Nigeria that has got this one node, concentration in one node, does not always promote economic development. If there's a better spread in well-designed economic nodes using SEZs, there could be economic development success. So SEZs as a strategy is very important and has been used in Singapore, in China, in Bangladesh, in Malaysia, with great success to develop less developed regions within a country. But it must be well designed, this strategy. And there was a statement, do we need infrastructure before we need economic development? You need infrastructure to have development. You cannot go without infrastructure. South Africa's got this energy problem with electricity blackouts. You cannot have development within that environment. You need a strong capacity for all of your services. So SEZ, yes, it is a wonderful way to develop less developed regions, but you need strong and well-designed strategies to be able to do that.
Professor, you mentioned a lot of different measurements of regional economic development in different regions, what you conducted together with Professor Natanya. Did you find some similarities what has been mentioned by Professor Daniela and Professor Adam about concentration of all innovations, let's say in regions where big cities are located? Do you have some insights from this point?
Yeah, I realized when Daniela was talking that I need to get more data on innovation indexes on a global scale, as well as in South Africa and other areas. I don't think there's enough data to make very strong decisions on innovation and comparing regions. I saw the European Innovation Scoreboard. I will have a look at that, and the other innovation measurements on the World Bank data system and other databases. But it is true that cities drives economic growth in the world at the moment. There's about 15 big cities that's driving economic growth on a global scale. And those cities is where innovation takes place. And we need to have other regions also that's going to contribute. But let's conclude like this. Economic growth is driving world economy. It's not countries that's driving it, it's regions that's driving it. So regional economic development, to study this field, is vitally important for all of us. And I'm happy that we're promoting this whole process, including local economic development. We've got Professor Marius Venter, also from UJ, who is director of CENLED, Center for LED, in our meeting today, as well as our Vice Dean, Professor Calvin Balwa. which is our Vice Dean of Research and Innovation at UJ. And I'm very happy with so many colleagues that's attending this meeting. It is all part of promoting regional and local economic development, get it out there. Even the mayor that is attending, the deputy mayor, he knows quite well how important it is to have well-designed economic development strategies on a local level. And that is where growth will take place. If you take all of the local municipalities in South Africa, and all of them are growing at a positive economic development rate, the country will have a positive economic development growth rate. But many of our local regions are neglected. There's not good strategies. There's not good leadership. We haven't all got fantastic mayors that we see that knows what's happening, and we need that type of public officials that's trained in this process, and that is what we're trying to achieve and promote. Knowledge about regional and local economic development through all of these seminars and attending these. And I'm asking people to also, if they may, become members of RENET, your organization that's promoting regional economic development. Thank you for this webinar. It's well managed and it's good content. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Daniel. As I see, Professor Angela James is providing you an opportunity to cooperate on a common project. So please pay attention. If you will need Professor's address, contact, let me know, because Angela James, Professor, is the member of RENET as well. So, dear colleagues, despite of our very interesting discussion, we have time limits, unfortunately, and our time has passed. So I would like to thank for all of you, especially our key speakers, Professor Daniel, Professor Natanya, Professor Daniela, and our Deputy Mayor Thomas for their presentations and giving some important insights that regional development is connected to innovations, is connected to the leadership, as you have mentioned, is connected to environment understanding and the various different indicators. It is important to understand how to measure our regional development, to understand the real situation of innovation management in regions, and that just then we may provide some decisions for the policymakers, for strategic planning specialists, and so on. So thank you very much for attending in this event, in this discussion, for your very professional attitude to our discussion. And I will remind just for our participants that Researchers Excellence Network has its own webpage where you may find all video records of our discussions and lectures. So today's event, the record will be uploaded to this webpage, so you will be free to watch again. And if you need, let's say, some contacts for common projects that it was mentioned already, or you would find any interest to make, let's say, measurement of regional economic development in your own country, and you would like to cooperate with professors, mayors, so we would be very happy to make those contacts, to help them, you to make those contacts. So thank you very much for your participation, for your huge contribution to this discussion, and I would like to wish us to meet in next events of Researchers Excellence Network. So warmest greetings from Vilnius University Šiauliai Academy in Lithuania, and see you in the next scientific discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well done.